government must make the offer this week, before the close of this week. And I'm sure if government heeds to this call, we will be able to quickly speak to members and then see, take their. But take note that the fact that we are saying, I'm asking the government must make an offer does not mean members will just accept anything because they are so concerned that the universities will be closed down. I keep saying, last week I said it, the university teacher is a very thinking person, a very discerning person, a very sophisticated person. And so you don't just treat him like rats. You can't do that and go scot-free. And so I will plead and I'll appeal that government should quickly find something, find good offers and make to UTAG. And I'm sure that once these things are done,
I will reflect on it thoroughly and do the needful. All of us want to build this state, but we cannot build this state on an empty stomach. It is a fact.
Yes, that's true. We have had to take that hard decision to go to the High Court to force our directive. Yes, it's been 2 weeks since the Commission directed the striking workers to call off the strike and resume work whilst negotiation continues. Their representatives, that's the national executives, then appearing before the Commission, assured the Commission to abide by this directive. Unfortunately, they got back, and the opposite was the situation. And it's been 2 weeks, like I said, and the Commission cannot sit there, give directives, and watch it flouted. So we've had to take the hard decision of enforcing our decision directive in court.
Just for emphasis and clarity, you're saying that when UTAG appeared before you, it was clear that it was going to obey the directive of the NLC.
It was not only clear by conduct, but expressly said they were going to oblige. So it's unfortunate,
So when can we expect you to file and head to court?
The process has been filed already, and it's been fixed for the 3rd of February.
UTAG is expected to respond to
respond and appear before the court on the 3rd of February.
But the concern of UTAG is that you have not been fair to them in this process, which is why they have been quite adamant in adhering.
Of it will be determined by the court. If the court says we are not fair, we wholly accept it and apologize if need be. If we are fair to, then they should go back to the lecture hall and discharge their part of the bargain with their employers.
Right, so you have been listening to Dr. Asa Asante at the University of Ghana on the UTAG strike. You heard Professor Ransford Jampo also speaking about it, and Ofosu Amwa of the NLC, that's the National Labour Commission. He's the Executive Secretary, also speaking about it. Well, he joins us for this discussion. Also joining us for this discussion is Kofi Bentel, Vice President, Imani Africa. And here in the studio is Dr. Samuel Nkumban, who is UTAG President, University of Ghana branch. Thank you, gentlemen, for making the time to join us.
Thank you.
All right. So something rather curious. I didn't know until recently your strikes brought these issues to the fore. It does appear that it is the migration of you guys onto the single salary pay structure that has worsened your circumstance. So the interim market premium for a lecturer with PhD as of December 2021 was 2,138 Ghana cedis, 30 pesos. So when I read that, I paused and laughed because that's less. Comparisons are not the best, but that's less the consultation fee for a good number of lawyers. That's just for 1 hour. Basic salary for a lecturer with PhD as of December 2021 was 4,103 cedis, 48 pesos. So let's cut a long story short. UTAG members feel that since they were migrated onto the salary structure, that is what has brought the problem. So these lecturers, as we talk about, their take-home pay as a professor, if you take the 20%, the tax deductions and so on away from it, you're looking at less than 5,000 cedis. And they believe that if they had not been migrated, at this time, their interim market premium of 114% of basic salary would have been 9,000 Ghana cedis, and that would have led them to be entitled to about 10,260 Ghana cedis. So, let's begin. Kofi, thank you for joining us. You've been teaching. I was going to say you've been a guest lecturer around some of the universities, but you have actually been a teacher on payroll.
Yes. I have been a lecturer for many years. My last position was Executive MBA, Teaching Services Marketing. And I left because of some of these things. It's almost as if wanting to teach means you are signing up to a life of penury. All right? And it's totally unfair because that is where we are going to create the human resource to change things in this country.
Kofi's line is frozen. This is terrible. Can we hope that that can be restored quickly so that he joins us back? Hello, Kofi. Kofi Bento's line. Hi, Kofi. Okay. So we will return to Kofi later about that. But yes, Dr. Nkumban, but why do you take the path that strike and striking just when parents, in the circumstances of COVID, have found, perhaps used all their savings to pay admission fees and gotten their children to school? That is when you strike. They are looking for accommodation. People have rented places to live on near campuses. And for how many weeks now since school reopened? They've just been there without any, productive work.
Yes. Thank you very much. And I should say good morning to listeners and viewers. It is not the case that we just took the decision to go on strike this January. If you recall, UTAG has been in the news over conditions of service for close to 4 years. And so it was in September 2019 that UTAG submitted a proposal to government for engagement in relation to poor conditions of service of UTAG members. And it took until sometime November 2020 for us to have a first meeting to draw up rules of engagement to begin a conversation on our conditions of service. And so for close to a year or more than a year, government was supposedly studying our document, and for which reason we never had any engagements. Fast forward, of course, we went into the electioneering of 2020, and thereafter no calls came up for us to begin this conversation on our conditions of service. And so sometime mid-2021, we had to indicate that if government was not ready to engage with us, then of course we would have to take certain decisions, which included going on an industrial action as what is happening. And so we started a series of engagements. And in all of these, we would We had several meetings at which, under usual circumstances of fair play and good faith, we would expect that some stakeholders who ought to be in the meetings in order to make conversations meaningful by way of making commitments that bind on government, most of the time would not be in the meetings. And so, for example, on the side of government, we have the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Ministry of Finance, and of course, our sector ministry, Ministry of Education. Most of the time, these persons represented, unfortunately, Ministry of Finance, the representatives from Ministry of Finance were not ministers or deputy ministers that had capacity to be able to make firm commitments in terms of how much to be given for specific items of negotiation regarding the conditions of service which we had submitted. Of course, in July of 2021, UTAG threatened to go on strike. And that was when we started these engagements. And like I said, these elements of having to treat us without some element of serious respect led us into declaring an industrial action sometime in August of last year. Now, having done so, if you recall, the National Labour Commission went to court to try to stop us. Government sector also called to try to engage again. And in a meeting with the National Labour Commission and our stakeholders on the side of government, or our employer, we agreed on timelines within 1 month to ensure that all the negotiations of outstanding matters were cleared. And so this was supposed to be with effect from August 23 for 1 month of last year. That period is elapsed. The line items that we agreed on negotiating include, which were the outstanding matters, included the research component of our book and research allowances. It included market premium, and it also included non-basic salary allowance. We also agreed in this MOA that we signed on the 18th of August of last year that any other thing that both parties thought would inure to the improved conditions of service of UTAG members, we could bring that onto the table. And as we speak, these outstanding matters are still yet to be addressed. They were supposed to have been concluded by 22nd of September of last year. That didn't happen. And of course, we suspended the industrial action of August of last year in the hope of having this conversation done by 22nd September, and that come this year, we will not be where we are. So we resumed after the started engagement on the items that I've indicated were outstanding, for only our employer to indicate to us that market premium and the non-basic salary allowances could not be engaged, except for the research component of our allowances. And so we got done with the research component, which of course, general membership is of the view that the amounts that are given for research allowances are certainly pittance in terms of being able to do any meaningful research. Remember also that our promotion, in other words, our condition of service is hinged on research output. And so if, for example, that our country is paying a lecturer 1,500 Ghana cedis as research allowance for the entire year, that comes up to less than 150 Ghana cedis per month. And so it is something that we requested that beyond the MOA that was signed, when we have to get back to the table to engage the other outstanding matters, then of course we needed to bring back to the table the issue of research allowance. And so ultimately these are the happenings that have led us to where we are. On November 11, 2021, we had an executive committee meeting at UPSA at which we issued a communique and also notified our stakeholders on the side of government that if by close of December, the labor market survey which the are supposed to be conducting was not ready and for implementation, then there was a need to put us back on the 114% of base pay as an interim market premium, which was what we enjoyed as of 2013. And December came to pass, and that didn't happen. On December 23rd, we still communicated to Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, the ministries that are part of this engagement, that December was coming to a close. And if that didn't happen, then of course, come January, we were not resuming. And so in all of those, no call-up came from the side of government for any engagement. But of course, we had them on other platforms indicating that market premium is the preserve of government or the employer, and it is non-negotiable. The question we asked was whether or not the agreement we signed on the 18th of August, for which reason we suspended our strike, was it to deceive UTAG members to suspend the strike?
Hello, Kofi. Yes, go ahead. You need to unmute your mic.
Hello, Samson.
Yes, I can hear you very clearly. Please go ahead.
I didn't hear you at all. Sorry.
Yeah, we lost you initially. You barely had spoken for 30 seconds and your line froze.
Yes. So I was saying that I think there is sufficient justification for the lecturers striking. I have followed a bit, and I think they have been disrespected. I think this country is not treating our intellectuals well, and to force them to this place where they almost have to sign up to a life of penury is really not right. And to bring them to the point where they virtually have to get onto the streets and, demonstrate for what is pittance, I think is totally unfair. And we can contrast that with what we see, in other spheres. For instance, with the life of an average politician, I do think that they should insist on what they're asking for. But the point must be made. If the government insists on being in charge of tertiary education, if the government insists on being the one that is solely funding education, then it should do it properly. Otherwise, the government can simply give them a budget because of their social and economic importance, and then allow them to function and to raise the money that they are capable of raising and to pay themselves the proper wages that they are capable of paying themselves. There are private universities in this country that do not have any government subvention but are paying their lecturers better. So I think that if University of Ghana with over 40,000 students and facilities already in place has some amount of government budget and is left alone to raise the money that they can raise, they should be able to pay themselves better. When the issue of fair wages and salaries came up a number of years ago, one of the things that we wrote after studying the whole idea was that it was going to be a disaster because that kind of wage centralization was not going to work. And one of the things we said is that they should apply the competitor parity rule. If anybody can run a university without government subvention, then University of Ghana should be able to do better. Leave them alone, allow them to raise money, they can. They are doctors, they are intellectuals, they have labs, they have all kinds of facilities already in place. They have hostels. That place is a money-making machine. And trust me, people are making a lot of money there. So government should not insist on being the one to bankroll education.
But do you
if they
realize,
insist on doing that, then they should do it well.
Do you realize what you suggest is going to price the poor out of the education system?
Absolutely not. And again, if we had time, we would explain it. There has to be a scholarship arrangement. Government is paying money today to University of Ghana and to other institutions. That money should not be paid to the institution. Let the money follow the child. Let the money follow the person who has gained admission. Let the institution charge their fees. If somebody gains admission into the university, instead of paying to build this and build that, give that person a scholarship. A portion of that scholarship can even be a loan, so that afterwards they can pay you back. They will go to the school and pay as fees to the school and let the school run. Okay, so there are ways to do this, and we are not the ones going to start it. The bottom line is that government is spending too much in education, and we are getting too little out. And the people who are holding the education system up are basically being reduced to paupers, and it is just not right.
And when you say, like you say, you have repeated that a life of penury, they are being reduced to penury, it's because you are making comparisons. It's because you are thinking in your head yourself. You combine a number of professions as a lawyer as well, and then you go in to teach. When you go in to teach, your motivation is not what you take at the end of the month. There was this very interesting story. One of the universities in the wake of COVID, or I believe, decided that it was going to restructure its salaries and didn't consult with the lawyers who were teachers in the university for the law faculty of the school, and arbitrarily decided what they were supposed to earn. The lawyers resigned en bloc because money was not their motivation, but to give them what they looked at and felt they could earn in an hour for a month of service was very bad. The teaching profession is not a place to make money, is it?
Well, in a sense, it is not, because teaching is, a matter of calling and it's a passion. But something I can tell you that at universities elsewhere, there are lecturers who are millionaires, because that is where you do the groundbreaking research. That is where a lot of the innovations, etc., come from. And those people end up, porting some of their ideas to industry, and they make a lot of money. And then also, there are teachers who are able to live adequately just on their teaching salaries. So nobody is saying that you should make millionaires out of, university lecturers. But as a professor, you and I have taken time to study, master's level, etc. Some of our colleagues have gone beyond that to PhD, etc. It should not be that somebody who has done the level of study we have done and is imparting that knowledge lives a life way below what we live. So my point is this: it is not acceptable that our professors and doctors and lecturers who have chosen to lecture cannot have a living wage, cannot have a dignified enough salary, which allows them to remain focused on teaching and creating the next generation of innovators. And I'm saying there's no reason for it. Because if you take a place at University of Ghana, if you give the University of Ghana to an average businessman and leave him alone, he will pay lecturers 4 times their salary. I have no doubt about it. We've all been there. We've seen the kind of economic arrangements that are possible in that field.
Yes, well,
so government should either take it up and do it well, or leave them alone and let them run this thing.
I've been talking to colleagues of mine that I left University of Ghana with, many years ago, and who are professors outside of the country, in the UK, in the US, in South Africa, and they can't believe that this is the circumstance that Ghanaian lecturers, and if you are talking about a PhD, that's approximately 22 years of education. That's what they are earning. But it is the comparison that is bringing the difficulty, is it not? Because the circumstances are not the same.
Well, Samson, again, it's no comparison. Even in Ghanaian standards, look, the richest people in our society are politicians, all right? They live the best lives, okay? An average young man is looking at becoming a politician because they go in there and within 1 or 2 political cycles, they are sorted out, all right? Now, that is possible within the same system because some people have engineered it that way. And what we are saying is that it does not make sense that somebody can build a private university from private funds, zero government funding, and run that university and pay lecturers well. And then the government has a university with legacy assets and resources already built, with multiples, thousands more of these people who are prepared also to pay. And indeed, a good fraction of, for instance, the people in the University of Ghana are fee paying. There are millions of dollars running through the school, whether grants or aid or whatever. So there's a lot of money washing.
What's your proposition to get out of this?
What I'm saying is that the paradigm, that economic structure, that creature that we have made out of our public universities is just wrong.
Right.
And it is not good enough. We are not comparing.
Now, the lecturers are saying that they have learned from previous experiences, including the 18th August agreement that led to they suspending their strike. And this time round, it is now or never. How do you propose we get out of this deadlock, because it's certainly not fair to parents. It's not fair to students. They have paid fees, they have returned to school, they have paid hostel fees, they are back on campus, their parents have spent, and there's no productive activity.
Samson, I am a victim of that myself. I have paid fees, very serious fees, for 2 of my children. They are supposed to be in school, including paying for hostels, paying all kinds of monies, and they are back in my house eating my food. And I don't understand why. But I absolutely say that my colleague lecturers should not relent in this particular fight. Look, some of us have refused to go back into the classroom, except we are going to do it for free or something, because they make it not possible for you to want to create a life as an academic. And they have been disrespected consistently. You tell them, oh, we are going to come back. You don't come back. You tell them, oh, we are going to say something. You don't say anything. Look, the paradigm itself is wrong, and I disagree with them on a number of things. Okay, I have my views about the research allowance, and etc. Okay. But it all comes from this structure that we have built, which is moribund. It's not working.
I see.
But on how do we get out of it? There's only one way to get out of it.
Okay.
Respect these people. They deliver value. Respect them. When you say you are going to have a meeting with them, have the meeting. When you say you're going to sit down and come to a solution, sit down and come to a solution. If you promise that you're going to pay them something, pay it. When it comes to the political class, we find the money to do all kinds of weird things. But when it comes to the things that matter, we have a lot of excuses. So look, I am a victim of what is going on, but it has to be solved one way or the other. If we have a longer discussion, I'll tell you what our ideas are about solving it. But it
okay, I want to pick just a minute of your view on this before I get back to Doc. You know, I'm reading the motion paper for interlocutory injunction by the National Labour Commission, which is to be argued on the 3rd of February. And they are simply saying that they want the court to compel UTAG to comply with its directive, that's the National Labour Commission's directive of the 13th of January 2022, to, among others, call off the industrial strike action and resume negotiations with its employers. Now, these applications, you can tell in our history, is always granted. And it is easy to grant because often the teachers are found to have breached the procedure.
Well, Samson, I'm a labor lawyer. You and I, we know we go to NLC, we go everywhere. We know there are serious limits to labor law. All right? Let me put it in short terms. It won't work. The courts are going to grant it. The lecturers are not going to mind them, and you can't do anything about it.
You mean
the way to resolve some of these things is to respect people.
Do you mean brutum fulmen?
What do you mean? Oh, it's absolutely a brutum fulmen.
But you don't encourage that as a lawyer.
Nothing will happen.
As a lawyer, you don't encourage that a court will make an order and it will not be obeyed.
No, get what I said. I said we are lawyers, and I said that by showing that we understand these things. I'm a labor lawyer. I've been to NLC, I've been to the court, but I'm saying that as somebody who understands how these things work, and also somebody who really wants them to work, we know the limits of labor law. And one of the limits is that a court can order you to stop a strike. You will not stop the strike. They can't do anything. They can't arrest all of you. Because indeed, you have other things that you are holding on to. So my suggestion to those running the system is that the law or the courts in such mass actions is not necessarily the silver bullet that solves everything. It can solve a number of things. But ultimately, what will solve these intractable problems is respecting the other party, sitting down with them, and making sure that you hear them and meet them at least halfway.
Right. So
you also have a right to demand certain things of them.
Yeah.
But the old idea of just ignoring them surely will not solve this problem.
Right, Dr. Samuel Nkumban, we have heard some of your members, even at executive level, already making comments that, well, you can go to court and you can even secure an injunction against that, but forget it. We will not get back to the classroom. Is it not rather the way to go that you negotiate with your employer, as the National Labour Commission is, suggesting to you and has directed you to do?
Thank you. We have said time and again that we cannot continue to negotiate in perpetuity. We have been at the table since 2019. We had a 1-month moratorium granted by the National Labour Commission that within this period, get this done. How many months down the line? September 22nd, we should have gotten this done by way of negotiation. We have not gotten that done. What has the National Labour Commission done to the side of government who caused us to suspend our industrial action of August last year and to go into a negotiation within a month period by which time we should have sorted all of these? And we have.
What are you thinking? What can the National Labour Commission do to
call it off? It hasn't add up on the side of membership.
Have you thought of the potential that that is if the injunction is granted? We do not know if it will be granted or not. But like I suggested, I think often it is granted and the public is outraged, and the accusation is that the National Labour Commission is government, the courts also wants to support government, but you will find that it is easy for a judge to grant because you have breached procedure. And sometimes procedure is as important as a substantive law. Have you thought of the consequence of, if it is granted, you losing your salary, not getting paid for the period you might want to stay on strike?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, and I really would not want to double into the legal matters, but to also indicate that our members are of the view that if they know they are sitting at home without getting paid, they are better off than doing what they are doing and earning what they are earning, which is not commensurate with what it is that they do. You look at the processes of having to go through school to get a PhD. On the average, your school fees is 10,000 Ghana cedis for 4 years minimum. And your accommodation is not part. Your research is not part. And then you finish PhD and come. If you were, you are a journalist, you can find this out from even Get Fund, which we have established with our taxpayers' money, that students that Ghana Get Fund sends abroad earns a stipend higher than a lecturer in this university in the country. That if you were studying, say, in Germany for a PhD on Get Fund scholarship, you may be earning something in the range of 1,500 euros. Or that you were going to UK and you are earning something in the range of 1,334 pounds. The
philosophy behind using state funds to support a PhD research student is that this is a contribution for the country.
Yes.
For the future of the country.
Agreed.
It's not something you are supposed to read back, because these are the people who will come and continue to hold the engine of training the next generation.
The question is if they will come, because if I'm earning 1,330 or 1,300 pounds per month, and I'm supposed to get done with a PhD in UK and come back to the country and be paid less than $1,000, I'm not sure such a person is going to come back.
Yeah, we know a number don't come back.
They won't come back. And besides, those who have come back, I can give you examples from the University of Ghana where I work, that over the last 3-4 years, you can count the number of people who are in politics, who were lecturers. You can count the number of people who have left for other opportunities. Fine Cambridge scholar, psychology department. November last year, he left after 5 years of service because he couldn't just take it anymore. You know, somebody is appointed from Zimbabwe who is holding the position as a lecturer, and the person is appointed to KNUST as a senior lecturer. And he writes to simply ridicule us.
I saw that letter.
You saw that letter. And these are things we presented. Our neighboring countries, Burkina Faso, Benin, and Nigeria, and what have you, we've done salary comparisons. And it's as though Ghana with a higher GDP is the one that is paying the least.
Our economy is in trouble. Our economy is in trouble.
Our GDP is higher than those other countries.
Our economy is in trouble. If we don't get levy passed to rake in 6 billion, the economy will collapse. So we go to IMF.
It doesn't look like that when you look at some of the Christmas decorations that happened quite recently. So we can appreciate the fact that it is not good. If it is not good, what are you offering? It is not just okay to say blanketly that there's no money.
Okay.
And you are not making any offers. And many of the times I've heard them say, oh, we've increased, for example, electricity subsidy by over 1,000%.
So what? Your employer has simply ignored you?
That is how we feel. Because if not, or that they have deceived us. If not, we have signed an agreement that we're going to engage market premium, we're going to engage non-basic salary allowance, and we're going to engage base pay. Base pay, you said we had to wait for public sector joint negotiating committee. That is understandable. Then, soon after the labor market survey report is released, the next thing we hear in the media is that it is not negotiable.
Okay, so immediately, in actual fact, some very 2 minutes or so, tell me what ought to be done to get you back.
So,
beyond immediate announcement that what you want has been granted.
What we want has been granted is the immediate thing that gets us back. And what it is that we want is simple. Like you made the analysis from the very beginning. History has said that from His Excellency Kufuor's time, we negotiated a roadmap that ended in 2008. In 2008, the entry point of a lecturer with a PhD was the CD equivalent of $1,500. Then we could not be migrated onto the single spine with a dollarized salary. And in a 5-day marathon negotiations at Pram Pram, an agreement was reached for the 114% as base pay for entry market premium. Now, this was supposed to run along with annual increases in base pay because it's a percentage of basic pay. 2013, a white paper is issued that freezes this at that point because a labor market survey had to be done for a market premium to be determined. The white paper actually deals with implementation of a market premium, not an entry market premium. Then, in 2014, the labor market survey report is done. It's duly signed by the authorized researchers. And no implementation has happened. 9 years down the line, we have another labor market survey report, duly delivered. What is the guarantee that this is going to see the light of day? And for us, the indication is that if you were to take current basic salary as against what 114% was supposed to be, it has reduced to 52% of basic salary. So we don't get the 114%. Make up the difference as an interim, and then we can come back to the classroom whilst we make progress in terms of conversing on the new labor market survey and a determination of a market premium. In actual fact, reference to the white paper, which deals with implementation of a market premium, for us is neither here nor there because there is no market premium. What we are engaged with is an interim.
So as we understand, the universities are likely to be shut down?
Well,
because that may be a better alternative than what is happening now, that people are, expecting their children and their wards to be learning and they are just in school.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, there is an unwritten rule that suggests that after 3 weeks, but of course, it's not a decision to be made by UTAG as an association. It is a decision to be made by the managements of the universities. And so, as it stands, we're holding on to...
Since school resumed, you've done how many?
Well, lectures for University of Ghana was supposed to have started on the 17th, but from the 10th, in fact, as far back as the 5th, registration and other activities of orientation for freshers started. So if they want to use start of lectures as a basis, then we still will have one more week to go.
All right, thank you very much for your time. I did announce that Mr. Ofosu Amoa, who is the Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, Mr. Asamoah, was joining us. Unfortunately, he has not been available as previously arranged. So I have been talking to Dr. Samuel Nkumban, who is UTAG President, University of Ghana branch, and Kofi Bentil, who is lawyer and Vice President, Imani, Ghana. Let me now share some of your views as we take a break and return to ask the question whether e-levy will survive. Nyavo John says, UTAG, stand your ground and don't kowtow to any form of intimidation or whatever, because this is a government that believes teachers can't be millionaires, and looking back into history, told some teachers that their reward is in heaven, whilst they take theirs on earth. Is that your name? The Veil 760. My only problem with UTAG is that over the years, their research have not reflected in the quality of students produced by Ghanaian universities. Armchair research is too much, considering the fact that research publications are a major factor in promoting university teachers. Are you speaking from a point of fact? If you get to our universities, you will know that a lot of research is going on, and current research, in fact. This one from Akosia says, these people don't respect you for who you are, because if they do, they would have seen that both your actions and that of theirs are creating a creator in the university's calendar, and those at the receiving end of this whole brouhaha are the students and their parents or guardians. That's from Akosia. And we hear from students also that they are planning to embark on a demonstration against government, the employer rather. Citizen Yao says, Samson, I want to know why GIMPA, a public university, is run as a state enterprise and other universities are not run the same way. Is GIMPA on a special treat to other public universities? Yes, GIMPA has some special status it enjoys. Akilu Faram says, if a constitutionally elected government tend to rule unconstitutionally, it is just fair to see the coup d'etats as safer module of interventions. Coup d'etat by itself isn't bad in context. It is a model of intervention to take care of corrupt governments. This is Gibat Vida, says that the current democratic system currently operating, and you are talking about the coups, currently operating in Africa is a scam because citizens have been frustrated or their rights have been deprived, including silencing renowned voices and opinions through intimidation and victimization. Kofi Boateng J says, to be frank, this is not a democracy. We are disillusioned. If we think this grotesque and inhumane political system is democratic, we just want to be safe, whereas the majority of lives in our country suffer. We must wake up or be engulfed. Let's not mince words. Thank you very much for your messages also. This is Newsfile. We take a quick break and return to ask whether or not the e-levy will survive.